And I also am the social service specialist for the team. So it's a pleasure this morning to have our sponsor, Jim Whittington, here from Lifeway Mobility. Jim, do you have a moment to tell us about your company and introduce Julie?
I would be happy to. So thank you very much. My name is Jim Whittington, and I am one of the aging in place specialists at Lifeway Mobility. We have been in business for 30 years, serving the needs of folks with developmental differences and people who want to age in place safely in Northwest Illinois, and also parts of Indiana and Southeast Wisconsin. We provide solutions for the home to help people stay safe in home, and also to be able to live longer in their home that they want to. It's their choice. It gives me a great honor and a privilege to introduce to everybody to Julie Boggess at Enlighten Elder Care. Julie formed Enlighten Elder Care after 31 years of experience in the senior housing and healthcare industry. Early in her career, she had the good fortune to work with and learn from the early pioneers of dementia care. In 1990, she obtained her Illinois Nursing Home Administrator's license and moved into management level positions, including CEO for 15 years at the Northwest Chicago Senior Care Community. In addition, Julie is the director of grants and consulting projects at AGE-u-Cate Training Institute and is an instructor in gerontology and leadership in aging services at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, Illinois. Julie, thank you for being on.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Jim, for the introduction and for sponsoring this session as well. I want to just do a quick check, make sure you can see my Dementia Live screen and hear me okay.
Yes, we can, Julie.
All right, terrific. Thanks. Well, I am really excited to present Dementia Live, the virtual experience this morning here. And as was a reminder right before the session started, if you could make sure that you have these items available to you, we'll be utilizing those for this interactive experience of Dementia Live. One of the things that I did add to the list that I had forgotten to put on the list is a pair of gloves. So if you do have any pair of gloves available to you real close by, just grab those if you're able. So what we do at AGE-u-Cate Training Institute is we transform attitudes and actions. And we do that so that we can promote a better quality of life for elders. And we transform the attitudes and actions of those who are providing care for elderly folks. And that can be people in their own homes, providing care for loved ones, as well as professional caregivers that are working in senior housing communities. We believe that if we can transform the way that people think and their attitudes, we can change the way that people act and interact with those that they're taking care of. So that is our mission. We write and deliver this training curriculum. And AGE-u-Cate started in 2015, and by Pam Brandon, who is the founder of the company, and she developed this training program based on the theory of experiential learning, that the deepest level of understanding and learning comes from when we can experience it ourselves. And so she created Dementia Live. And Dementia Live is a simulation of what it might be like to live with dementia. Now, of course, this training curriculum is ideally delivered in person, but we know that this last year has prevented any type of in-person training or really in-person anything. So last fall, our founder, Pam, took the Dementia Live experience and put it in this virtual setting. So this is intended to help you as a caregiver hopefully come away with a deeper level of understanding of what your loved one is experiencing. And the reason that this is so important for people who are caring for those with dementia is that dementia is a very mysterious thing. It's unpredictable and it can be very unsettling. Dementia manifests itself very differently from person to person. So what works one day may not work the next day. It's that fear of the unknown. It's what is tomorrow going to look like and what's the next day going to look like? What can I expect? And part of the caregiver stress that you all experience comes from perhaps a level of lack of understanding, lack of that feeling of control. And so dementia is something that is difficult to learn about just by reading about it. But certainly talking to other people that have gone through caregiving of people with dementia is a great idea. And lots of other ways that you can immerse yourself into truly understanding what is happening to the person that you're taking care of. So I want to start, before we actually jump into the Dementia Live experience, I'd like to start with a little bit of Dementia 101. First of all, dementia is an umbrella term, and it really describes the multitude of effects that people who are living with the symptom of dementia experience. Dementia is a symptom of an underlying disease process. The most familiar disease process is Alzheimer's disease. But there are other disease processes that take place that can produce the symptom of dementia. So vascular dementia, multi-infarct dementia, frontal temporal Parkinson's disease also can carry an element of dementia. Those are irreversible conditions, irreversible diseases. But there are reversible situations as well. And you can see those on the screen. Sometimes depression can look like dementia, but with treatment, dementia symptoms can be reversed. Infections can also mimic effects of dementia. But for purposes of today, we're going to really focus on the irreversible diseases, such as Alzheimer's disease, that causes these dementia effects. And they're vast and very all-encompassing of the brain. Dementia affects memory and mood and personality. It affects problem-solving capabilities and communication, the sensory aspect of it, judgment and behavior. All of these things change in a person with dementia. A lot of times we think about dementia as only a memory problem. It's not. It is a multi-dimensional symptom that people are dealing with. And that is because the disease process of Alzheimer's or frontal temporal or Parkinson's disease is enacting and inflicting changes, literal changes in the brain. And those changes in the brain will eventually include all of those symptoms, personality and behavior. The challenge, as I said before, is that these changes are all likely to happen, but they don't happen in lockstep with everybody else going through dementia. And it's often said that if you see one person with Alzheimer's or experience one person with Alzheimer's, you've experienced one person with Alzheimer's. So your experience as a caregiver is probably very unique to you, but there are similarities. And so these changes in the brain are going to happen to everybody at some point in the disease process. And it's very important at this point to really understand the fact that the changes that are taking place in the brain are irreversible. And there is no treatment that is going to stop the progression or reverse it. But there are treatments that can slow the progression to a certain degree, but that's really only in mostly the earlier stages of the symptom of dementia. So for what we accomplish with Dementia Live is we focus on mostly the sensory changes that happen when people are living with dementia. And those sensory changes include vision. So vision, what we know happens that with people who are living with an irreversible type of disease that produces the symptom of dementia, first of all, their vision does change. They lose peripheral vision, and they begin to see the world and interpret the world through a very narrow circle, or what we call bubble of awareness. Now, the thing that we know about our senses, our vision, our hearing, our touch, is that those help us make sense of the world that we're living in. It helps us put order to things. And when you begin to live with a narrow view visually of the world, that in and of itself is a confusing reality for people. Tactile processing is also affected with dementia. So when you touch a surface or an object, your brain will tell you what that is through your touch. You probably have heard about stories where people with dementia don't understand that the stovetop will produce heat that could burn you. People with dementia often can't feel that until it's too late, until they've really hurt themselves. Or they don't understand that turning on the hot water spigot without combining it with cold water could burn their hands. It's because their brain doesn't process the tactile messages that are being sent with the touch. And there are hearing changes that accompany dementia. And I'm not necessarily talking about age-related presbycusis or hearing loss. I'm talking about comprehension. And you may encounter this, that your loved one may not actually have hearing loss per se, but their ability to take in what is being spoken to them and process it and understand it is very challenging for them. So you may hear often, I couldn't understand you. I can't hear what you said. And that can be very frustrating because you know that they can hear you. They simply can't understand what is being said to them. Now, having said that, so while dementia, the symptom of dementia, is always going to include this comprehension issue, age-related hearing loss, some elders experience that, some don't, many do. You have the hearing loss on top of the comprehension loss. So our experience of Dementia Live truly mimics what it might be like to have dementia. And how we do that is through three very simple mechanisms. Number one, we equip the learner going through the experience with a set of glasses, and those glasses are designed to create that bubble of awareness. So the peripheral vision of those glasses is blocked out, and you are seeing only through a small bubble. Then we're going to confuse your brain with the headsets, and those headsets are going to play gibberish. And you'll hear an example of you're going to hear an example of what that will sound like here in just a minute. And so the headsets are intended to replicate not what the person with dementia actually hears, but it's intended to mimic a confused brain. What it's like to have a confused brain. This is where people who go through the Dementia Live experience maybe get a little off track with what we're trying to accomplish with the experience. It's not about saying that people with dementia hear this through their ears. It's intended to replicate what it feels like to have a confused brain. And then the third thing we do is give you a very simple pair of gloves that are going to just dull your tactile senses. So this is what an experience would look like. And I'm going to show you a video clip in just a moment of people who are actually going through the in-person Dementia Live experience. So we're going to get 4 people together, and then those folks are going to be given a set of instructions, a set of tasks to go into the experience room to complete. Each person will have a set of 5 tasks to complete. And they go into the room with a confused brain, with impaired vision, and a dulled sense of touch. And their task is to complete as many of the tasks that the instructor has given them to do. So what Dementia Live does, and I want to really emphasize this because we're going to talk about this after you go through virtual Dementia Live, is what we do is we connect the experience of having dementia with how that makes you feel and how those feelings can produce behavioral reactions. So again, the experience with the feelings and behaviors. Oftentimes, people with dementia are going to exhibit certain kinds of behaviors. That's where a lot of the stress for caregivers can enter in, is when you are dealing and responding to the behaviors of the person that you're taking care of. Those behaviors can look like agitation, wandering, pacing, even severe things like hitting, and or verbal things like yelling, lashing out, resistance to care, anger. All of these behavioral reactions comes from how that person is feeling. We're going to talk about that a little bit more after the Dementia Live experience, but I wanted to prime the pump just a little bit about that. So what I'm going to show you now is a real live Dementia Live experience, and then we're going to move into the virtual experience.
This is what it starts right then over influence. We get test liberty, we get referrals. We start getting this in the continuous. Open source and start with the turns to review the first poster goes to the movie. Then I'm most excited about it. Might have a little bit of Massachusetts, where a famous story of Whitey Ford, the gangster there, black mask. This is Johnny Depp's lady. What a treat. Check out this. How come no one has banned Whitey Ford? She should be a every crime just to focus on this time in life for the family. Let's get midnight. Apparently that's something that now being
All right, so we are going to move into Dementia Live, the virtual experience, and I will ask that you make sure you have your volume set in a way that you will be able to hear my voice, but you can also hear the background. So that background gibberish that you heard is what I'm going to play here in just a moment. And if you gather those things around, your pen, your beverage, your pen, your notepad, envelope, cell phone, a magazine, and a calculator, I'm going to play the put your gloves on. I'm going to play this background noise, and then I'm going to issue you some tasks that you, sitting at your desk or wherever you are, will complete. But I'm also going to be reading to you a text from a textbook about Social Security. And at the end of the experience, we're going to, I want you to pay attention to how you're feeling through this experience. And I'll launch a poll and ask you to respond to how you were feeling through this. And then that will kind of launch us into the next part of Dementia Live. So I'll give you just another moment to get yourself set up with all of your Dementia Live task items. And as soon as I hit the play button here, I will be issuing you your tasks to complete. So here we go. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm going to invite you to take a nice drink of that beverage that you have in front of you and ask you to take your pen and your notepad. And I want you to write down on that pen and notepad what you had for dinner last night. When you're done with that, then that envelope that is on your desk there, I want you to address that envelope to your closest relative. And then when you are done with doing that, I want you to grab that cell phone and I want you to text the last person that you texted on your phone and just text them a good morning message. And then grab that calculator and I want you to add 23 and 67. And then the last thing I want you to do is take that magazine or that brochure. And I want you to read the first couple lines of that brochure and then be able to remember what it is that brochure was talking about. But in the meantime, I want to talk to you a little bit about Social Security. Did you know that in 2015, 39.5 million retired workers received Social Security benefits? And Social Security retirement benefits in 2016 averaged about $16,128 a year for a single individual. And the majority of older adults rely on Social Security for at least half of their income. Yet Social Security was never intended to be the sole income source for people in retirement. In fact, the large majority of beneficiaries have other income from a pension, savings, or continued part-time employment. For most retired people, the retirement annuity portion of Social Security is most important because it provides a foundation for retirement income. The broad outlines of Social Security are familiar to most Americans, and the program remains enormously popular and widely supported by American adults of all ages. I'm hoping that you are getting those tasks all complete because they're really very important that you complete all of those tasks. And I just also want to remind you that you should probably be taking some notes about what I just read to you about Social Security because I will want to ask you some questions about that when you're all finished. So I'm going to give you another minute to just finish up those tasks, and then we will just kind of talk about how things are going for you there. So anyway, I hope you all are staying inside and staying safe in this really awful cold weather right now. So be very cautious about that. All right, we are going to conclude this Dementia Live virtual experience and start our conversation. Alrighty, that's a micro experience of Dementia Live. Normally, when we're doing this in person, we're going to let you have about 5 minutes to complete your tasks. But for purposes of this, I shortened it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I want to launch a poll. And I'm going to ask you, to check off in the box anything that you were feeling that best describes how you were feeling through this experience. So here we go. And you can check as many of those things as you can or want to. All right, I'll give it just another moment here. And then I'll share the results and we can talk about it. Part of the Dementia Live experience that is, well, the part about the Dementia Live experience is not necessarily just going through it. It's the debrief and the discussion afterwards. So that's what I'm going to do now moving forward, is to try this in this virtual setting to have a little bit of discussion, and we'll have to do it through the chat about how you were feeling and reacting to this experience. So I'm going to end this poll because it looks like we pretty much have everybody weighing in here. I'm going to share the results. So let's take a look at what we've got here. So we've got a fair number of you that say you felt inadequate, 68% annoyed, for sure, confused. A couple of you felt sad. Most of you felt overwhelmed. Some felt angry, frustrated, anxious, some not sure. Yep, that's legitimate. And I feel okay. Okay, good. So what is the largest one? So largest one here, it seems to be, or the most response is frustrated. You feel frustrated. So let's talk about that just a little bit. Now, what I said before about feelings, the experience driving feelings and feelings driving behaviors. It's easier for us to kind of understand now. I'm going to open up my chat too so I can see any comments coming through. I don't know that I can. I don't think I can. Is when we experience it for ourselves, we can have a better understanding of how people with dementia are feeling. The thing to know about dementia and memory loss is that while those memories fade, feelings remain much longer in the brain, because in the part of the brain that really controls our feelings is the amygdala. And the amygdala is one of the more resistant aspects of the brain. So even though the person with dementia may not remember what was said, they can remember how they feel. And feelings will drive behavior. So in the Dementia Live, the in-person experience, the kinds of behaviors that we see in the people going through that are behaviors like wandering, confusion, even shutting down, sitting down and saying, I'm done, I can't do this. Oh my gosh, when is that awful noise going to stop? So they feel frustrated. They feel all the same things that you did, but you also knew that that was going to be a limited experience, that at some point it would stop. Somebody with dementia has a brain that never stops. The brain is constantly trying to work to make sense of everything. So if I could ask in the chat to describe of the tasks that I had assigned to you, did any of you, were any of you able to successfully complete any of those tasks? I'm going to give you a chance to chat that in. And I can't seem to control the chat feature. Is that right?
Julie, I'm here to relay any information.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
No,
okay.
you didn't mention.
Okay, awesome. So anybody able to complete all of those tasks without a problem?
One person has said yes. The next person says yes, dinner, address, text, in addition. Someone else was able to address the envelope, and then we have a flat out no. I was able to complete them all. However, I don't know if I missed hearing any. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to put the note in the envelope.
Okay. How about what I read to you as you were trying to complete those tasks? Does anybody know, and can anybody pull out any kind of fact or figure or even what the topic was that I read to you?
I think I heard it was about older adults. I do see some more comments related to your last question. Someone was able to, yes, drink, address, text, and magazine. Someone else says, not them. Everything I started, something I had to stop them and I became frustrated. Not all of them. The gloves were cumbersome for a few. I couldn't text because my iPhone doesn't react to the gloves. Dinner address, couldn't complete a text with gloves on and got really frustrated by that fact. Okay, then related to what you just said, Julie, there's several comments on Social Security. Someone else says, no, they don't remember anything you read. No, I was overwhelmed, especially reading Social Security. Someone else picked up retirement income plus Social Security. Only one, that Social Security was not meant to be the only source of income. Someone else says, I think you read about the Social Security, but not sure. Your talking was a big distraction. I definitely didn't focus on your reading, but I know you were discussing Social Security statistics. No, I purposely blocked you out because I wanted to focus on others.
I seem to have lost the volume.
We've got you.
Okay, great. You blanked out there for a second. Okay, those are really excellent. That's really excellent feedback. And when we do the in-person Dementia Live experience, that's very similar. We hear very similar responses to that. Is I walked into the room and I suddenly forgot what I was supposed to do. And oftentimes they will say that I could not wait to get that noise out of my head. Or I knew I was supposed to do something with that pen and envelope, but I couldn't quite remember. A lot of times they can pick out pen or dinner or envelope, calculator, or Social Security. They can pick out a key word, but they can't remember what they were supposed to do. And the reason that they can't remember is because their brain is confused. Your brain was confused. Your brain was overwhelmed. Your brain could not process everything that was coming at you. And as a normal functioning, probably, human being with a normal brain, you found that very difficult. But you take your normal brain and set that aside and put a diseased brain in place of it and understand that that is what somebody with dementia is living with all the time. They may remember dinner, but they don't remember when, or they don't remember that you were going to pick them up and take them to dinner. They might have remembered something about a Social Security, but they don't remember why or what they need to do related to Social Security. They may not remember that they were supposed to write out that bill and send that bill in. So living with this kind of a busy brain that because of the disease in the brain is unable to process everything that is coming in. That is what we want people to understand when we're doing this training, is that the people you're taking care of, I think sometimes, and I really, really appreciate everything that Corey said about taking care of yourself as a caregiver. You must, because caring for somebody that is living with this kind of a situation in their brain is extremely frustrating. And I'll talk about that in just another moment too, but I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the person you're taking care of and to ask yourself, how might it feel to feel so scared that tears are running down my face, or to feel foolish because I've lost all my self-confidence, to feel no sense of purpose, or to have a lingering sense of boredom. What a lot of people will do is shut down, and they try to block out the confusion in their brain by shutting down as much as possible, and to feel like they are just not a whole person. So, tips for understanding challenging reactions. When we feel this way, when we feel frustrated, and feel frustrated for an extensive period of time, not just 2 minutes or 3 minutes, we feel angry, or we feel like we're not a whole person, we feel like we've lost control of our life. How might we act or react to those situations? In so many years working in senior care communities, I realize now that what we did was we tried to shut down the behavior. We tried to stop the wandering, stop the crying, stop the hitting out, stop the pacing and the wandering. We tried to shut down the behavior without addressing the feelings that prompt that behavior in the first place. So when we do our debrief sessions after Dementia Live, we try to get the caregivers to tap into feelings and not react to the behavior. Because when you react to the behavior out of a sense of a feeling of frustration, or out of anger, I think one of our participants said that little things set you off, that you get impatient. Of course you do. So doing all those things that Carrie mentioned, taking a count to 10. I want you then, the next step, to think about the feeling that is prompting your frustration and your impatience. It's probably in reaction to the behaviors, or in reaction to your own sense of lack of control over the situation. And I know often as caregivers, you think that there's something you should be able to do to fix this. There's something you should be able to do to make this stop. You cannot. You cannot change the progression of the disease. What you can do is change how you react to it. So if you change how you react to it by understanding and appreciating the feelings that your loved ones are going through, that you're caring for, it can help you feel like you have more control over the situation, and take the anger and the frustration that you feel off of the people that you're caring for, and put it out there. This is a disease. This is what you're frustrated at. You're not frustrated at your mother, your father, your grandparent. If you can truly understand what's going on with them. So understanding challenging reactions. One of the first things we can do is to ask questions. I see you seem very anxious right now, Grandma. What can I do? Or simply taking her hand. One of the other programs that we have at AGE-u-Cate Training Institute is called Compassionate Touch. And it teaches caregivers how to use expressive touch to calm and ease anxieties. So use touch, ask questions, give a nice shoulder rub, acknowledge the feelings. Wow, you seem angry today. Tell me about it. If you can get your care partner to begin to express themselves, even though it might not make any sense, that's okay. Getting them to express themselves could be helpful. Look for a pattern. Maybe there are triggers. Maybe there are things that trigger. Again, go back to the experience. Did you just give your care partner 5 tasks to complete? Did you give them a lot of input too quickly? Or maybe there's a lot of distraction in the room, like the radio is playing or the TV is on, or like I said, you've given them a lot of directions at one time. Maybe those are the kinds of situations that will trigger a behavioral reaction. Be positive. That's very hard to do. Absolutely it is. But if you allow yourself to get to the angry place, to get to the frustrating place, and you begin to put that back out to your care partner, it will simply exacerbate the situation. Look for nonverbal communication. If you walk into the room where your care partner is, and you see that person slumped in a chair and kind of nodding off, that care partner is telling you that they need some quiet time. So don't disrupt that moment for them. Maybe what you could do is add to it by going and offering a shoulder rub, or just take their hand and sit with them quietly. Sometimes we feel like we have to fill up the time and fill up the void with a lot of stuff. And being in silence with somebody is absolutely appropriate and can be very therapeutic for everybody. Use a lot of smiles and facial communications. People with dementia are still very intuitive. They can pick up on the nonverbal behaviors. And because they still have the capability to feel, validate and join them where they are. And you can use distraction techniques. So if you have somebody that is in the middle of a episode, let's just say, find those things that bring them comfort. Maybe turning on some quiet music in the background, or essential oils, or a neck rub, or something like that that will distract them. Pull out pictures. You can create like a basket of handy dandy things that you can kind of pull out quickly. So maybe the photo album of their wedding. Don't think that going back into memories of 40, 50 years ago is going to make your care partner sad. It won't, it shouldn't. It is more likely to bring them comfort, because oftentimes that's what they can tap into, is the long-term memory. Sometimes it's what's happening in the immediate now that is the cause of their anxiety and their frustration, not necessarily something that they've been thinking about from 40 years ago. It's amazing to me, and it was always amazing to me when I would work with elders in our skilled nursing, in the skilled nursing community where I worked, and they simply could not remember that 10 minutes ago, their caregiver was in the room helping them get dressed. And I would come in the room and they couldn't remember that, but I would say to them, tell me again what year you married Bill. They could remember just like that. And I'd say, I love that picture on the wall. You and your wedding gown, it was so beautiful. Did you make that wedding gown? Where did you buy it? Where did it come from? Oh, that's right, it was handed down in your family. Get some good distraction techniques at your fingertips that you can call upon that you know will work. And sometimes you do have to just step back when it's necessary. You have to take that 10 minutes for yourself and come back, because sometimes a matter of minutes can make a big difference. But as a caregiver, try to get beyond the mindset that you have the ability to change what is happening in terms of the disease, because you don't. You can simply change how you react to what's going on. So use eye contact, listen with understanding and interest, limit conversations to simple and short sentences. Don't argue. There is no win-win in an argument with somebody with dementia when they truly believe that you never told them that you were coming over today. Let it go. Let it go. And use a lot of reminiscence. That can be very, very helpful. So going back to the Dementia Live experience, I suspect that had I given you those directions one at a time and let you complete that before giving you another direction, you would have been more successful. And had I stopped and only read you a couple of words about Social Security, like 39.5 million retired workers receive Social Security, you may have been able to remember that factoid. But when it comes in overwhelming, we are setting up a real system of failure for the person that you're caring for as well as yourself. I put this little heart here to remember the feelings, tap into feelings because they do matter. If you listen for clues to how your care partner feels, instead of what they're saying, you'll be able to understand your care partner much better. What is that Maya Angelou statement that I may not remember what you said or done, but I will remember how I made you feel. I will remember how you made me feel. It is about feelings. I want to conclude with reminding you that, first of all, what Dementia Live does is that it does put the experience of Dementia Live puts all the onus on the caregiver to be the one to make the changes and the modifications and approach. We understand that. This is a very difficult, challenging job that you have as a caregiver. You must take care of yourself. You have to realize and appreciate that you are only one person. I think of that pie that Corey showed too, that you can't always give the 100% to your care partner. Keeping those other parts of you alive and well as you're caring for somebody with memory loss is exceedingly important. So I know that Dementia Live really calls for you as the care partner to be the one to make all of the changes and the adjustments. That is true, it does. Our expectations of our loved ones that we're caring for has to probably come down a couple of notches. And I know how difficult that is. So I am glad that you are here today participating in this fabulous ElderWorks caregiving symposium, because you need this, you need help, you need resources, and that's what all of us are here to do, is to help you as much as we possibly can. ElderWorks is a phenomenal organization. I've been involved with them now for many, many years, and I want to stop and mention that they are also an AGE-u-Cate training partner. So ElderWorks has the ability to bring Dementia Live to any groups in your church, wherever you think it could be helpful. They have a trainer that is able to do that. I am able to do that as well. So if you think these programs could be helpful, either virtually or in person, when we get closer to that spot, please call upon us to help you and help support you with that.
Well,
So
Julie, we
you
do have some questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so the question is, are they aware in any way of what's happening to them? So I'm assuming they is the dementia patient.
This is what I think, based on my years of experience working directly with people with dementia. That is happening more at the beginning of the disease process. So as Alzheimer's is beginning to set in, yes, you will sometimes hear them say, I don't know what's wrong with my brain. I can't focus. Or I'm really, I'm sorry. Sometimes people will get very defensive as well. At the beginning, yes. As the disease progresses, mercifully, they are largely unaware cognitively that they have a problem. But they have feelings, so they may still feel frustrated. But I visit with somebody regularly who is in his 70s, and he had early onset Alzheimer's, early onset dementia. And at the beginning, yeah, he knew. But as this disease progresses, he thinks he's a consultant, and he's living in this care community because he's there to provide consulting to the care partners. Great.
I love
So
that.
that's where he is. Yes.
All right, so we have an appreciation for this powerful experience. Another comment/question from Todd. It is really helpful to keep in mind that we have no control over progression of the disease, but can control our reactions. I know there is no answer, but I constantly try to figure out how much time should we spend with our loved one. What is the work caregiving balance? And this is somebody that works from home. Great question.
What is the work caregiving balance?
How much time should you allocate to your demented loved one?
I think that's every individual needs to answer that question for themselves. I don't think there is a magic formula for that, but I want to go back to what Corey said at the beginning about balance. And you have to balance yourself with your care partner. But I also want to say this, and again, I base this on my experience of elders who live in an assisted living or nursing facility. Many times family members would think, I have to be there all the time to make sure this, and that is done. And what I would counsel them is that is not helpful for you or for your care partner or for the staff that are taking care of them, because that staff needs to begin to develop the relationship with their caregivers. And if you're there, that's not going to happen. So spend the time that you need to ensure that your loved one has the care and support that they need, but there's no need to overdo it.
And as you know, Julie, people weren't allowed to visit over the last year. So that situation was somewhat forced.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes. And it's going to be a hard transition back, I think. From the care provider perspective to the caregiver perspective, reintroducing yourself into that situation, if that's where your loved one is.
And that's a real issue, that during this loss of visitation privileges, what we're seeing and what people are calling us about is that their loved one has declined and is more confused.
Well, it goes to, again, I go back to what Corey said. I learned so much from her presentation that we are meant to be connected to each other. And we have the capabilities and the means to find other ways to do that. People who are living with dementia don't.
Mm-hmm.
They often can't facilitate or, instigate connection with others. And so they have been without human connection for well over a year, outside of the instrumental care that they're getting from the staff.
All right, a couple more questions for you. So again, somebody commented that they really needed to hear this, all that you taught. There's a specific question. My significant other relocated near family out of state. If I spend a week visiting, in the long run, is that better or worse for that person?
That's just very difficult for me to answer because it's just so dependent on each individual situation. And that kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning, is that not everybody experiences this phenomenon of dementia similarly. I would say that you have to really pay attention to the responses of the people that you're visiting. Are they getting overwhelmed? Are they beginning to shut down? Does it seem like it's really stressful? If
Right.
it is, you may need to adjust your expectations of visiting for a week. But if it works well and it's accepted and it's not causing anxiety or too much for yourself or for the care partners, you just have to feel your way through.
Well, that's a great point. All right, we've got at least 3 more questions. My husband has early onset. He's 59 years old, was diagnosed at 54. There seems to be a ton of information for older ones with Alzheimer's, but not younger. Do you have resources that focus on younger onset patients and their caregivers?
I do. The Rush Alzheimer's Disease Center has a wonderful resources for early onset. There is a support group, and I will get the name of the social worker that you can contact there. She focuses very specifically on early onset Alzheimer's. There's also a great documentary, if you haven't seen it, that was created by the Rush Alzheimer's Disease Center. I'll get the name of that for you as well and put it in the chat.
Okay, and that's for Katrina. The next question is, my mom lives alone and probably shouldn't, but she refuses to live with my family or to leave her home. What do you suggest?
I suggest that you connect yourself with somebody like ElderWorks and start to partner with somebody with a care manager that can assist you with that.
Absolutely. The next question says there's elder abuse, but how about when our loved ones are being verbally and or mentally abusive to us as caregivers? Are there any protections or help for us as caregivers?
Ooh, that is a loaded question. Protection or help? Well, that to me, when it gets to a situation where it's maybe getting dangerous, let's just say, I think that is a time where you should reconsult with a neurologist to assist with perhaps some pharmacological intervention to help manage some of that extreme behavior. You can also consult with a neuropsychologist, and there's also a really good neuropsychologist in the area that works with that as well. I can also chat her information in the box, but anything that you would consider to be beyond a kind of normal, understandable reaction, you need to get some help, because as a caregiver, you do not need to be subjected to that. You are not, you're not required to, your job as a caregiver is to not be abused. You don't have to live with that. So there are resources that can help with that as well, but make sure you don't get yourself into a dangerous situation, for sure.
Absolutely. All right, so it looks like the rest of the comments are providing resources. So Alive Inside, that's the Rush documentary for early onset. And then Carol mentioned that the connection, let's see. She's provided information for Susan Frick.
That's it. Yep.
Okay. And also the early onset connection for group and info at Rush. Okay, so I think we've answered those questions. If you still need information, certainly get back to us. Julie, we're right on time, 11:15.
Right.
So